Morning, good morning, rise and shine. Today's the day I make you mine. The sun is rising over the hay. I know it's gonna be a wonderful day. So morning, good morning, rise and shine.
Hello, and welcome back. And welcome to the first episode in our new series on inspiring leadership. And thank you for the terrific feedback that you've sent in. It's very much appreciated and very welcome. The purpose of these podcasts, as you'll know by now, is quite simply to learn from the best. We want to understand what makes a great business leader. How do they focus? How do they get people to follow their vision? How do they motivate? How do they deal with failure? And how can they use their influence for the good of all of us? Albert Schweitzer said, "Example is not the main thing in influencing others, it is the only thing." We will learn from experiences, good and bad, and that will always be our best teacher. There's always something to learn. Why invent pastry when we can use our grandmother's recipes? I'm Darryl Cooke, the co-founder of law and professional services firm gunnercooke and the author of To Innovate or Not to Innovate and Private Equity Law and Practice. And today I'm joined by Steve Byrne. Steve is the managing director of Travel Counsellors. Travel Counsellors is the highly successful and the fast-growing travel business whose mission is to redefine personal travel. It achieves it through a combination of superb technology, but always the personal touch delivered by its over 2,000 travel consultants or franchisees. It already has achieved a turnover of over £600 million per annum in its short life and has won numerous awards, including being placed in the top 100 of the Sunday Times Best Companies to Work For. Culture and customer care is at its very heart. It has a customer satisfaction score of 96, and bearing in mind NPS scores can vary from -100 to +100, that is no mean achievement. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Darryl. Good to be here.
I think the first question is probably, it comes really from the title, and that is, what does inspiring leadership in a business look like to you, Steve?
I think it does evolve according to where you are on your journey. I think my mantra in leading the business was to lead from the back and to set out a strategy and a culture and an operating style that enabled people to be the very best that they could be, and my role was to facilitate that. Recent events, the pandemic, for example, that's had a profound impact on our sector, has meant that I've stepped more to the fore and I've led more from the front. And I think that's been about giving people hope and inspiration that no matter what difficulties you might face, the company you are part of is there with you for the good times. It's also shoulder to shoulder with you in the tougher times, but out of those tougher times, no matter how tough times are, there's always opportunity and there's always the source of optimism. And as we look to the future now, I think inspiring leadership is about continue to make sure that all of our people and anyone else that wants to join us is aligned to and passionate about that purpose and that vision of helping our customers get a uniquely personalised experience that no one else can provide, so that they come back to us and rave about us to their family and friends. And that's been the basis of the Travel Counsellors' success over many years and will be the basis of our success going forward. And all we've tried to do in the pandemic is accentuate that.
And that is fascinating, isn't it? Because what you're describing there is how leadership has to evolve in itself. So, I think you described at the outset, it's like being a servant leader, being a coach and letting others lead. And what I think Jim Collins talks about, that level 5s type of leadership. But then you're right, when things are really down, when you're in the trenches, sometimes you have to get out and lead from the front. And I think, optimism is that force multiplier, isn't it? When people are down about things, you have to be the one who's giving them the optimism and the hope in effect, to go forward?
I think you've got a responsibility to yourself and to your family and the people who look up to you, even though your own natural style may not be comfortable with that concept, but you've got that responsibility to give people hope, even in the darkest time. That doesn't mean it should be unrealistic, and you have to be honest and you have to be authentic. And honesty and authenticity, if we'd have been chatting as we have over the years before the pandemic, we'd have said that honesty and authenticity is a key part of leadership. I think in tougher times, those things that are important are just magnified because people need them more than ever before. And as the leader, or part of the leadership teams, I would prefer to say, there are three things that we're constantly agitated about. One is strategy, one is culture, and one is people. And in tougher times, strategy is important at any time, but in tougher times, people want to know, what is your strategy to get us out of this? And that was the question that we posed ourselves at the start of the pandemic, and we articulated it. And then hopefully we provided an environment where people had the support both from us and from each other to help navigate it, which we can now look to the future with optimism. And going back to the original question, after having gone through a relatively challenging time, I'm passionate and adamant about that our people in 3 to 5 years' time, because they are special at what they do, will be able to look back and say, that was a really tough time in our journey together, but I've come out of it and I've built something even better. So out of that difficult time, you can find optimism and you can find hope, and we play a role in that as leaders to give people that inspiration, honesty, but also inspiration. And hopefully we do that at Travel Counsellors. I know you do that at Gunner Cooke too.
And I think, strategy is really key, obviously, isn't it? But also is the vision, isn't it? And I guess during the tough times like the pandemic, is it possible to I know that what a strong vision you have for the business. Is it possible to maintain that vision, during that time? I mean, I always think vision is kind of, as a leader, is seeing things before they actually happen, and then knowing when and how to communicate it. Is it possible still to do that yourself when you're firefighting so much?
I don't know. I mean, we're all imperfect, aren't we? I can only give you my view. I don't see myself as a futurologist, so I'm not sure what's around the corner. I think you come up with a vision that is rooted in something deep that has got longevity to it, and in a tougher time, you've got to do two things. First and foremost, you've got to take everyone back to basics, because there's no point me talking about the road to glory and the dream and the vision, which I'll talk about in a minute, in 3 to 5 years' time, if people can't pay their bills now. So you've got to make sure that people are able to address the basic stuff, the basic stuff of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's why in the pandemic we introduced a financial welfare fund to support our people, etc., etc., etc. And people need to be able to put a roof over their head. But as you're doing that, then it's super important to remind them about why we do what we do. And that why is worth holding on for, and it's worth fighting for, because that's the passion that people had in our case before the pandemic, and will have going forward. And that passion, alongside with some good financial fortitude and mental resilience and a shoulder of support that we create in our community, those two combined mean that not only do you get through it, you can build something even better. But you have to have both. You can't just have the vision without also making sure that you're looking after the basics. And there's no point looking after the basics if you don't have a wider view about what you're trying to achieve, and remind yourself, why do you do it? And the why is more important than the what and the how. And I believe that with a passion, both at a personal and at a corporate level, knowing why you are doing it will see you through for the long term and see you through the tougher times.
And so vision and kind of strategy come together, don't they? Kind of the vision is where you're trying to get to, and the strategy is how you get there. But what is also, and I think this is so relevant to travel counsellors, I always think, I think it's Peter Drucker that said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Which is a terrific, I love that phrase. And you can see it whenever I visited your offices and felt, you can actually visibly feel the culture. Good organisations must have a strong culture. What does that mean in your terms? What do you understand by that, having a strong culture?
I think it's a semblance of the people that you've got, the operating style that you've got, the behaviours that you exhibit, and the explicit and implicit values that you use to operate by, both personally and you expect others to operate by, and people respond to that and they feed off that. Some people are turned off by it, which I think is just as important as well. So I think it's a combination of all of those things, and I think Travel Counsellors, along with a number of other businesses, is a living example that culture is more important than the strategy. It doesn't mean that strategy isn't important, but I think the strategy can evolve. I think the vision is a covenant that exists regardless of trading, performance, etc. Strategy may evolve and you may need to be agile with it, but why you exist, and then the culture, the operating style, what you want to be famous for, that's much more fundamental. And that operating style that you exhibit as a leader, that's meant to epitomise the culture and personalise it and personify it, which you don't do all the time because we're all imperfect, that sends a beacon out to how others should operate, the behaviours that you encourage, the behaviours that you won't accept. And it also puts a beacon out in terms of the sort of people that will be attracted to you and the sort of people that won't be attracted to you. And then it becomes self-perpetuating. In our businesses, which are about, like most businesses, attracting the best talent that there is and special people, what they see, read and hear about you will attract people in. And it will also turn some people off. So I think it's fundamental both to your current performance and also the quality of people that you're able to attract going forward. And ultimately, we're all about people, aren't we?
So actually what you're saying is it after a while it perpetuates and gets easier, but at the outset you've had to design it. You've had to sit down and design. Every firm has a culture, doesn't it? Every firm has a culture, and lots of people don't design their culture, and they get whatever culture they deserve as a result of it. But at some stage I'd have thought you've had to design what that culture looks like.
Well, I haven't, because I didn't do what you have done, which is create something. So Travel Counsellors, like all business, was started by someone. So when I came on board, the culture was already strong. I've tried to reflect it, and where I can keep it relevant and add to it. I think the key thing is, as a leader or an individual, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can influence. But if you've got, in our case, 2,000 people who, for the most part, are living and breathing the culture and the values and the operating style, that's much more powerful than anything that you or I can say or do, because it generates its own momentum. So the biggest single thing that has helped our wonderful people get through the pandemic and do such a brilliant job looking after their customers is the reciprocity amongst them, and the kindness and the caring and the support they've given each other. Our culture facilitates that. Our culture explicitly acknowledges people that do that for other people, and then you attract more people into the business that want to do that themselves. So in our business, even though we've got 2,000 franchisees, they don't compete with each other. They help and support each other, because the culture facilitates that, and then it becomes perpetuated. Once you've got that, you've created a community, then you've got something really, really powerful. And your job as the leader is just to sit behind the scenes and just keep on oiling the machines, because it's not about you, it's about them. It's much bigger than you by then.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I've used your service several times now and worked with, one or two of your travel counsellors, and I can therefore personally acknowledge, I think, the way that the personal service that they deliver. Now, at some stage, someone has sat down and worked out, haven't they, how to design that and how it really works, and then I guess everyone that joins follows a similar type of template. Is that right? I suppose what I'm getting at is you've got 2,000 people, but actually the service is very, very consistent and clearly shown in your NPS score, which is really high. So there is something there that everybody follows.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. It's not driven by a standard operating procedure that's a 100-page document. It's driven by a constant focus on a number of key values that are very, very simple. And one of them is caring. So we want to attract people who have got a passionate about caring for their customers. So those, in our case, 4 simple values that you constantly try and talk about explicitly and implicitly by sharing examples of behaviours that illustrate those values, that and a constant communication reminder of why you exist. Those 2 things, which you can capture in a few words, is much more powerful than any standard operating procedure or lengthy training manual, because what it does, it keeps you honest in terms of the standards that you're trying to live to, and it sends a message out to the world about the type of people that you want to attract, and therefore it makes it easier. Because if you're attracting people who've got a natural affinity to wanting to care for people, then they're going to go and care for people, and therefore they're going to be successful. So talking about those key values as much as you possibly can, exemplifying them by the way that we look after a customer or the way that we support each other, implicitly brings those values out, and communicating that constantly. So we were chatting before we started this that we have a Travel Counsellors TV studio, we do live webcasts that are unrehearsed, and we don't script it. It's because it's authentic and it's real. All of that rawness, the evidences that ultimately our business, and we've got brilliant technology, and we've done 2 private equity deals, and et cetera. We can talk the sophisticated stuff along with anyone till we're blue in the face. But the most important thing is it's all about people and about how you treat people when they're part of your community, because then that means you attract people who are attracted to that, and that's when you build something that's really, really strong. And from my ill-informed, imperfect view, ultimately it's all about people.
100%. And I think, as I say, we're so similar in so many ways in that. And I think it is really interesting because when you talk I sometimes have these conversations when I do some interviewing and bring people in, and because they've come from organisations where they don't, culture means bringing a dog to work or something like that. And you're right, there's little things that make a difference. But when you're in an organisation like yours, and I think like ours, it's how people treat each other, isn't it? It's how they talk about the business, how they go the extra mile for each other and therefore for their customers. And I think it comes through 1,000 little things that you're doing that then create the whole. And I don't think we should ever, and I think that's exactly what Peter Drucker is saying, is that culture eats strategy for breakfast, because you get the people caring for their clients, and we're both in that sort of business, then it makes such a massive difference to the organisation itself and how they treat each other.
Yeah, it's not so much, is it, about what you do, but how you make people feel. And we're in an age where being able to build genuine relationships and genuine intimacy, because every business will talk about providing great service. I mean, if you're not doing that, it's not really worth bothering, is it? But building something that's deeper than that, where you do such a wonderful job of getting to understand that customer, doing the basics around service, but getting to understand that customer, making sure that you're attending to all of their needs, thinking about their, in our case, travel needs when they're not thinking about them, doing that consistently over a period of time. And the trust equation, isn't it, is consistency of behaviour and frequency of interaction governed by self-interest or or not. The more you do that, then you'll build something deeper. And our business is about building intimacy. We don't want to be the biggest. We don't have unique product. So our differentiator is that we are better than anyone else at building intimacy with our customers. And the conduit in our business for doing that is having brilliant, special, talented people who are brilliant at caring and looking after their customers and building that intimacy and building that trust. And over a period of time, not initially, but over a period of time, those customers count their advisor as not just their travel advisor, actually, but as a friend, because they trust them. But they've demonstrated and earned that trust over a period of time. And our role as leaders, I think, is through the conversations that we have, increasingly by Zoom or over face-to-face or media like this. Our aim over time is to do the same, is to get to our point where people will trust what we say and they'll follow our lead, not because we've tried to exert any type of command and control influence, but because they genuinely believe in what we stand for, and we're honest, and we make it human. Those softer qualities now are more important than ever before, and the ability to care, the ability to relate, the ability to build emotional relationships, those human to human skills are a rare commodity in business, and we want to build on them because that is our point of difference.
And I always say to the lawyers, in particular in our business, that our purpose is not to deliver employment contracts or convey properties or buy companies. Our purpose is to give peace of mind. So when someone rings us up, they've got a problem, they've got a challenge, and they really want someone to give them peace of mind, which is exactly what you're saying. It then changes it, doesn't it, into kind of that relationship with we're there to help people.
I don't know who was it. That said it. Maybe it was Peter Drucker that ultimately a business only exists is to find a customer and to keep them. Yeah. To find a customer and to get them to stay with you. And our business and our people are brilliant at making sure that when they've got a customer, they look after them so that the customer comes back to them. And we get all of our new business through referrals and recommendations. We don't advertise. So this business will be £1 billion turnover business in 3 to 4 years. It was on track for that before the pandemic, without any retail outlets, without an e-commerce site, and without any above-the-line brand promotion. It's all based on word of mouth because our people are so brilliant at doing the basics, which is looking after the customer. And in my limited experience, there's a lot of businesses, particularly in travel, spend a lot of money trying to get new customers rather than looking after the customers they've already got. Well, build a relationship first. And building a relationship means when you're engaging with someone, the first thing you're doing is not trying to sell to them. You're not trying to sell to them straight away. You're trying to build a bond and build a rapport with them and build a likability. Now, you've got to evidence that you're professional and that you know what you're talking about, and you might need to give them information, etc. But the selling comes once you've tried to build a trust. And I think building the trust on social media, all of that sort of stuff, do that first before you start to sell, because starting to sell straight away, you're straight away saying, I want a transactional relationship with you, and actually what you really want is something deeper and longer lasting than that.
What you're describing, actually, Steve, is it's a terrific business. It's a kind of, because you actually are caring for people. I love the phrase that you used, and not many businesses would use that phrase, but actually if that's at the heart of what you're doing, then that makes it, well, one, all worthwhile, and two, you are going to be successful as a result of that. But also I think what you're describing is the kind of authenticity of a leader to allow that to happen. And I don't think anyone can be a great business leader unless they have strong values themselves, strong personal values. Do you agree with that? And what are your values?
I don't know. I think you're a function, aren't you? We're all a function of all the things that influence us in life, be our parents and background and the people that we spent time time with the great examples that we've learned from and the bad examples that we've learned from. I think it's really important when you've got a fancy title like CEO to remind yourself that you're not perfect and you make mistakes and you're constantly learning, and therefore you need brilliant people around you. I think having a sense of what you believe is right and proper is important, but you and I can have a strong sense of what's right and wrong on completely different things. It doesn't mean that you're better than me or I'm better than you. I think what you're trying to build is a culture whereby people genuinely like who they're working with, even though they've got different opinions and can agree or disagree about things, but at the end of it, and not happy going out with a drink with them or sharing a meal with them, or knowing that if they're in tough times, they can pick up the phone and say, listen, I need some help. And on this day and age when people's mental health is under so much pressure, particularly after the pandemic, I think creating that safe environment where you recognise that people are imperfect and it's okay to say, I'm not okay. And you're okay if I'm okay if you're okay. Having those types of just genuine, authentic, real conversations in an environment that is safe because the culture is safe. I think that's deeply powerful stuff, because that is life protective and also life enhancing. And that's when you're trying to build. That's when you are building something that I think that transcends an employee-employer relationship. Now, you won't get it with everyone, but there's no harm in trying, I think.
I love that description, because I always think that sometimes the CEO's job is easier than we think if we are secure and we're prepared to bring in better people than us. Because when they come in with good education, good different experiences, etc., and then we encourage them to bring all their ideas to the table, our job is just simply to make decisions. Which idea are we going to back? But if we're insecure and we think we have to have all the answers, then we're just creating a rod for our own back.
Yeah, I think it's often difficult, especially if you're in an environment that expects and traditionally has delivered high growth. So if you're in an environment where you're delivering double-digit growth and you want to do it over a sustained period of time, sometimes you need to step in, and you will be perhaps more demanding and directive than your natural behavioural style would want you to be like, because you've got a set of expectations of yourself and also with investors as well. I think the key thing is people understand that the intention is that you are well intended in how you go about things. You may not always execute it in the right way because we're imperfect, and things cut across our working days and our lives that sometimes can affect how we operate. But the intention is authentic. And I think if you can get to a point where when you're dealing with someone, either individually or collectively, where people can understand that sometimes the delivery may not be the very best, but the intention is bona fide and you genuinely have people's best interest at heart, even when you're making really, really difficult decisions. If people can see that intention is solid and well-rooted, then I think you'll probably be okay. I think where you come a cropper as a leader is even where the delivery may be really, really good, but it doesn't come from a well-intended place, and that's when I think you've got difficulty.
And I think we have seen you've had tremendous growth and a tough time last couple of years, but that growth will come back. But how do you maintain those values and that culture as you grow or have grown as quickly as you have?
I think a couple of things. First of all, you have to make sure you're okay as the leader, because we're all human. So I think you've got to find out what it is that floats your boat, whether it's a bit of time reading or exercising or time with the family or making sure you got your holidays booked or whatever it is, to make sure that you're okay, because you've got to be okay to be able to lead. I think the second thing is constant communication. I don't think you can communicate too much. I mean, make your communication varied. So whether it's webcasts or sometimes written communication, but I think over communicate, particularly in a period of change, if you don't communicate as the leader, then the risk is the lowest common denominator, i.e. the most negative voice, will fill the void, and it will drag everyone else down. So over communicate. And then I think the third thing is make sure that when you are hiring, spend your time on the hiring. And listen, we all make great hiring decisions. We all make wrong hiring decisions, wrong for the company and also wrong for the individual. But make sure that you're hiring people who share the same values, because if you then are replicating and duplicating and tripling, quadrupling, etc., the number of people who are articulating and living those behaviours then becomes self-fulfilling, and you don't need to then police it as much. You're the reference point and focal point. People will still look to you, but it's then baked into the DNA of the business. In our business now, I'm very much the sideshow, because it's that operating behaviour, living the values, is baked into our DNA, and therefore, it will last for a long, long time because it's shared by so many people. And if they saw behaviour that was contrary to that from me, I wouldn't last, because they'd shout me out for not being true to what we stand for. And what we stand for now is much bigger than me, and that's where you want to get to, I think.
And isn't you touch on recruitment, and I seem to remember we had a conversation. I mean, time's gone very quickly, hasn't it? But it might have been 2 or 3 years ago, Steve, when we had a conversation about recruiting into how you recruit into your business, how we recruit into our business. And we talked a lot about mindsets, about getting the right people in the business with the right mindsets. And you use a particular process to ensure people come into that. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, we have a process like everyone will, and face-to-face conversations, albeit in the pandemic, we didn't do that. So virtual conversations increasingly play an important part of that. We also try to get to know people, and we use a psychometric profiling system as a tool to support it. But the most powerful way to recruit is to recruit from referrals from your existing people. If your existing people are aligned to your values, then they're only going to refer and recommend people to join you who they believe will add to what you've got. They're not going to recruit people and refer people who are going to ruin the DNA that they're so protective about. So a third of our new recruits every year come from referrals from existing people. Almost all of our new customers come from referrals from existing customers. So try and build your business based on advocacy and referrals. That's why we use Net Promoter Score, because it's a physical reflection of how good you are at building that advocacy. So yeah, we have a recruitment process, but the single biggest asset we've got in our recruitment is two things. It's the referrals from our existing people, and also the advocacy from our existing people to validate the choice that a potential recruit might make. And the most powerful thing we can say to someone is, don't take my word for it, because I'm biased, aren't I, as the CEO? Go and speak to the 2,000 people that are part of this community. You can go and find them on our website. Go and find people who've left, because I want you to make a decision that's right for you. And if someone tells you things that I would never tell you, they had a bad experience here for whatever reason, then take that on board too, because I want you, when you join us, to be successful. The last thing we want is someone to join and then not to succeed. That's a life-changing event that's not worked out. We want people to make honest decisions that are right for them. And if we're right for us, brilliant, we'll support them. We'll support them till the end of the earth. But we want it to be right for them. So validate your decision by existing people, and even the people that have left us. And I say that knowing that some people that have left us, and we lose about 8% of people a year, which in a home-based environment is pretty good. Not all of them are going to think that I'm a brilliant leader. Some of them are going to think that completely opposite, and that's okay, because I want people to join us from an informed position. We don't want to sell something that's not right for people, because that's not genuine. And the business is based on trying to be genuine and trying to be authentic.
And just to move it on slightly, I mean, I think vision is important, coach is important, communication is important. People are absolutely key to everything. But technology is becoming more and more important in all our businesses. And I once remember, this is a long time ago, but I once remember working for a very large multinational with a finance director. I remember saying to me, he just had the IT director in his office, and he said that technology is like a black hole to me. He said the IT said that guys said they need 1 million and the rest, and he said, how am I able to challenge it? And I've always kind of thought about that in business, because we cannot, technology is now becoming more and more relevant to us. But how do we know and ensure that it's relevant to the business? And technology is becoming a really big part of what you do, isn't it?
Well, digital enablement, in which technology plays a fundamental part, is probably critical to most businesses now. And if it wasn't before the pandemic, almost every business that wasn't digitally enabled is now going through some type of digital transformation. And we're doing the same. It started before the pandemic, and we've accentuated it in the pandemic. And there are really good, modern, progressive, proven ways of identifying what needs to change, prioritising that change, and delivering that change, including technology facilitated change. There's operating styles and operating structures around product ownership and agile's way of working and delivery that I think, take the risk away from that traditional sort of waterfall approach to technology. So I think if you put that in place with really clever, smart people who understand it, and you elevate your hiring so that you've got people in decision-making roles who are not functionally led but are commercially led, who are only going to make decisions because they understand the commercial rationale and the basis to them, then I don't think you'll have that problem, because that sort of more traditional view of your spending departments and your revenue-generating departments, I think, is old-fashioned. The senior people that you recruit will share the commercial hat and share the commercial risk and reward with you, and will only want to invest where they know we can get the best return, and actually spend your time on the things that make the biggest difference in the shortest amount of time frame. And there's a skill and a set of processes in place that you can do that businesses can deploy. And my advice is recruit some bright people who understand it better than I do, and they'll help you get there.
So what you're saying, though, is ensuring that IT is always business-led. It's not IT-led, it's business-led.
Ensuring all of your senior directors are business-led.
Yeah. We're going to do something different now, Steve. We've never done this in these podcasts, and it's a chance of asking you a few very short questions, hopefully some short answers as well, that just get to know you a little bit better. So let's give it a go and see how it goes. Who would you say is the person that has influenced you the most?
Well, I'm going to give you a massive cop-out now, because I
can't do that.
I don't tend to look at it things like that. I think you're informed and by lots of people in lots of different ways and on a daily basis. If you were to force my hand and say, who's the one reference point that you probably think about more than others in terms of driving how you behave, then it probably would be my dad. He was diagnosed just as he retired with progressive multiple sclerosis, and he had a really difficult time with that and all the things that went with it. And the end days weren't very nice. But I never heard him once complain, ever, about it. So I think seeing that moral fortitude from someone who, he wasn't business minded, he was, and he would call himself a very ordinary chap from a very working class, poor background. Seeing people who, in lots of different walks of life, regardless of status and income, who conduct themselves in a way that is lack of self-interest, thinking about others. I think you look for inspiration in that sort of way rather than people who write big fancy books, maybe.
I think that is really. So we have something definitely in common there. I'm not sure you know, but the gunner in Gunner Cooke was my father. That was his nickname, and he died the year we set up the firm. But we had lots of conversations before that, and very similar to you. And he was of that age where he would just never complain. He was stoical, but very keen for me. I was kind of in an unhappy period and very keen for me to get out of it and develop that. So, yeah, I think that's far more meaningful than naming Winston Churchill.
I think it's good to be able to say that, when you think about your career and how you're developing it and the legacy that you want to leave, what do you want people saying about you after you have left, and would you make your reference points in life, whether it's your mum and dad or friends, whatever it is, would they be proud of you? I think that's a useful thing to dwell on now and then, I think.
Okay. If there's such a thing, what does a typical day look like to you?
Blimey. Tend to get up relatively early, but like you and I have probably done about 4 hours in my subconscious mind when I'm meant to have been sleeping, thinking about stuff. Get into work really sort of back in the office. Now, I normally have some meetings. I try to avoid making sure my day's jam-packed with that. In fact, I'll take stuff out if I see that. Make sure I've got lots of time in between any discussions that I'm having to walk the floor and have a chat and have conversations, and then try and make sure a couple of times in the week that one of those days has got some time for exercise, either first thing in the morning or later at night. But generally bumble along, make an idiot of myself and annoy people and try and have a chat with a few people if I can.
At least you didn't say that, I always admire these people but don't know how they do it. I hit the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, making phone calls while I'm on the bike, etc. So
I sometimes will go to the gym first thing, and I like being up early. But listen, I think we're just, I'm just as normal as anyone else, and I get tired and all that sort of stuff. You've got to work out what works for you. I think that's really important, and I encourage our people to do that. Wherever it is, they enable you to have some type of balance in life, so you're not resenting work, but actually work is a positive thing in your life, and therefore you've got other things in place to compensate for it. I think is really, really important, especially if you want to have a career that's successful over a long period of time.
Is there a quote that you use or you'll turn to from time to time that you find helpful?
Probably are, but it changes, I think, according to where you are. So nothing I would shout out to you about now. No.
Okay, and what about a book? Is there a book that's kind of had an impact on you that you've read over the years?
I haven't read a lot of stuff over the past 18 months, other than anything that will give me a welcome relief and release from the seriousness of what we've been dealing with. The books that have struck a chord with me, and some of them are a little bit older now. Daniel Pink, A Whole New Mind, I think was written in the mid-90s, and he talked about the importance of the softer skills in life, and the caregivers and the joy givers will reap society's greatest rewards going forward. I thought that was profound. I really liked Matthew Syed's book, Black Box Thinking, and the way he compares and contrasts different industries and how they deal with things that go wrong. And I think that is deep and super, super serious. And the example he's given is, question of life-saving or not. So I think having a culture that welcomes feedback, that shares when things have gone wrong so you learn from it, that book illustrates that in the most powerful of ways. So I would recommend that. And then if you really want to get deep inspiration, and just think about what people have had to contend with because they really believe in something, then read the Mandela books and read the letters that he wrote. I think they're deep stuff and stuff that you can reference now and then. So they're the ones that would jump to mind. But I read Ray Dalio's book Principles. I thought that was great, but it's not a light, easy read. So it's each to your own. But I thought reading that story, because I like relating to people who have stepped in similar shoes as us, but in that case done it on a much bigger scale, and see how they've contended with things. So I like to be able to read stuff I can easily relate to. So people who, as I say, stepped in our shoes. So anything like that, I think will always be helpful.
And I think that I've read the Ray Dalio book, as you say, and I think I can see that in how you operate, because one of these big focuses is transparency, isn't he? He talks all the time about transparency within an organisation, whether it's good or bad, sharing good or bad with people, which is I always think is really powerful. Final question: what's the best advice that you'd give to someone who's setting out today?
It's got nothing to do with leadership. It's a tool. There are a number of tools and techniques you can use to master your own performance. And I don't mean performance as in performance at work. I just mean performance in the bigger sense, happiness, fulfillment. And one of those tools is self-talk. So what you say to yourself about who you are and about how you're going to be and about what is happening in your world is the most powerful thing that you can do, one of the most powerful things, because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. It only knows what you tell it. So if I come here and say, this is going to go terribly badly and the weather's awful and I don't feel great, well, I'm not going to feel great. If your self-talk is the opposite of that, if you're able to look at the positive in any given situation, if you're able to be kind to yourself, then that self-talk can give you a platform to just make the best out of every opportunity and have the resilience to deal with adversity. And your brain is a muscle, like a physical muscle. You need to exercise it by surrounding yourself with positivity and taking positive mental vitamins. The books that you read, the things that you watch, the company that you keep. Be around people who will lift you up, not the opposite. Yeah, you'll need a shoulder of support now and then, like we all do, but you do need people to say, right, enough's enough now. Come on, let's move on. Let's deal with this. And so I think your self-talk, what you say to yourself about you and the environment, all of that, I think is hugely, hugely powerful. So anything you can do to find out more about that and use that in your everyday existence, I think will be hugely, hugely helpful.
Good. And I think there's one final question I'd really like to have a discussion about, Steve, and that is the role of business going forward to some extent. And I think there's Generation Z, millennials now account for something like 75% of the population of the world. There's a real demand actually on how companies behave, whether it's environmentally, whether it's looking after the people, whether it's looking after the communities. And I don't think that businesses can now look at themselves in the same way as they used to do. I think there's a much greater demand on us to play a greater part in society. What does that look like in your world?
I think you've got to do your bit to build up the business, the community that you're part of in the image that you want it to be. Maybe the image that you had in mind when you first created it or started working at it. So big changes start with small steps. So I'd spend less time being negative about what others aren't doing and focus on the things that you can control and make sure that the things that you can control reflect all of those things. So are you clear about purpose? Do you endeavour to treat people properly, even though sometimes you may not always do that, but you endeavour to treat people properly? Do you try and do the right thing by your customers? Do you avoid making bad profit? Are you taking steps to take sustainability seriously? And we can all do more on that. So I would focus on what you can do and what you can control, and be the change that you want to see in the world. Don't spend time pointing at the finger about what so and so should be doing. Do it yourself. So practice what you preach, I think, is what I'm saying. So that's what we try and do at Travel Counsellors. And I think if everyone does that, then you'll build a momentum. I do have a slight concern that we're losing the argument, that business isn't seen as something positive when actually it is. It's it's a catalyst to change so many people's lives for the better. Customers, people who are part of it, we're a catalyst of people who choose to leave traditional employment models and have their own business. It's a special step. It takes a lot of courage to do that. We're a catalyst to enable those people to thrive and shine. That, I think, is good in itself. So long as you don't try and convince people to do it if it's not right for them. So be the force that you want to see in the world, I think, is what I'd try and focus on. But also recognise that none of us are perfect, so people are going to make mistakes.
I think that's the quote that you should use, Steve, that you didn't, is be the change that you want to be. I think that was Mahatma Gandhi actually gave that quote. So I love that. And I do think that chief executives in businesses have a real responsibility, but also an opportunity, because what chief executives are good at is making decisions and making things happen. And that's what governments are good at quite often. Governments are a little bit, can be very inefficient, can be very populist and indecisive quite often. And I think chief executives can fill that void if they get, first of all, it starts with your people, then it's your customers. But then I think actually outside that as well, it's your communities as well.
I agree, but I think chief executives, because of the title, and if you get a business of a certain size and reputation, that will create a platform for those CEOs to have a voice and to have a positive influence. It's even more powerful if you can give 2,000 people their voice too. And I think that's what we're focused on as well.
That's great. And on that note, I've really enjoyed that, Steve, really enjoyed it. I hope you have. And as I said, just to finish on that, I think leaders of business, in my view, have such an important role in our society and beyond their business. We need our leaders to step up to produce that better society. And I think you're clearly doing that with your business, and it was great to hear about. We've produced a magazine to go with this series with lots of great stories and ideas, which can be obtained if you visit the Inspiring Leadership section of our website at Gunner Cooke. We're also producing a series of booklets on getting involved, and the first is called The Square Mile, and again can be found on the website. So please download or just contact us for a copy of the book. But leadership is just as relevant in our homes or if we're running a team of two. How you choose to lead is your decision. I hope that listening to great leaders helps you to become a great leader in your life. I hope that you've enjoyed today's podcast. Please let us know if you have, and let us know of anyone that you think we should invite on the show to share their recipes with us. We're looking forward already to our next guest. Thank you for listening. Go forth and be a great and inspiring leader. God bless.
Never thought I'd see such opportunity. Extraordinary. Morning, good morning, rise and shine. All the world is feeling fine. I can jump for joy, feel ecstatic.